The U.S. Pioneer drifted toward the massive space station. The station was like nothing humans had ever built, a gleaming spiral of metal and light that seemed to bend the darkness around it. Captain John Carter stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, as he watched the alien structure grow larger in the view screen. "Impressive, isn't it?" Susan Wright said as she joined him. As the ship's chief engineer, she had spent the last 3 years helping to build the Pioneer. It was humanity's first true interstellar vessel, and while it wasn't pretty, it had gotten them here, to the heart of the Galactic Concord. "They're hailing us again," said the communications officer, a young man named Kevin West. "Put them through," Carter ordered. A blue-skinned alien appeared on screen. It had 4 eyes and spoke in perfect English. "Pioneer vessel, follow the guidance beacons to Docking Bay 17. The Council awaits your arrival." Carter nodded. "Understood. We're on our way." After they docked, Carter and Wright prepared to meet the Concord Council. They wore their best uniforms and carried data tablets with information about Earth and human technology. "Remember," Carter said quietly as they walked down the ramp, "we need them more than they need us. Be respectful, no matter what." Wright nodded. She understood what was at stake. Earth needed allies and trading partners. The resources of one solar system wouldn't sustain humanity's growth forever. They were led through enormous hallways by a silent alien guide. The walls were made of a material that shifted colors as they walked past. Finally, they entered a vast chamber where representatives of 12 different species sat in a semicircle on raised platforms. "The human delegates may approach," announced a tall, thin alien with silver skin. Carter and Wright walked forward and bowed slightly. "We come in peace from Earth," Carter said. "We bring greetings and hope to join your Concord as equal partners." A ripple of what sounded like laughter moved through the chamber. The silver-skinned alien, who seemed to be the leader, spoke. "We welcome you, humans. Please share with us your achievements so we may evaluate your petition." Wright stepped forward and activated her tablet. A hologram appeared, showing the Pioneer and its specifications. "Our ship uses nuclear fusion for main power, with chemical rockets for maneuvering," she explained. "We've developed artificial gravity through centrifugal force in the crew quarters, and—" She was interrupted by loud noises from several council members. It took a moment for Carter to realize they were laughing. A purple-skinned alien with tentacles where arms should be spoke next. "You crossed interstellar space in that. It's a miracle you survived." "The Vexari delegate makes a valid point," said the Silver Leader. "Your technology is quite primitive by our standards." A different alien projected images of their own ships, sleek vessels that seemed to glow from within. "Our smallest scout ships use quantum fold drives. Your fusion engines are what our children build as science projects." Wright's face reddened, but she kept her composure. "Our technology may be simpler, but it's reliable and—" "A child's toy made of scrap metal," interrupted the Vexari delegate, causing more laughter. The council's deliberation was quick. The Silver Leader stood. "Humans, while we admire your determination in reaching us, we must deny your petition to join the Concord at this time. Your civilization is not sufficiently advanced. Return in a century or 2, perhaps." Carter felt a cold knot in his stomach. The journey had been for nothing. As they prepared to leave, Wright fighting back tears of frustration, Carter's communications device buzzed. He answered and his face went pale. "What is it?" Wright asked. "Emergency transmission from Earth," Carter said, his voice tight. "Unknown vessels have appeared in our solar system. They've already destroyed the Mars colony." The Silver Leader overheard. "Describe these vessels." Carter showed him the grainy images transmitted from Earth. The council members looked at each other with what seemed like fear. "It appears," said the Silver Leader slowly, "that you have encountered the Wraith Collective. And if they have found your world, then none of us are safe." News of the Wraith attack spread quickly through the Concord station. Screens displayed images of sleek black ships that seemed to fade in and out of view. The aliens who had laughed at the Pioneer now rushed about in panic. Carter and Wright were quickly brought back to the council chamber. This time, no one laughed at them. "The Wraith have been our enemy for decades," explained the Silver Leader. "They use some form of cloaking technology that our sensors cannot detect. They appear, attack, and vanish before we can respond. And now they've found Earth," Carter said grimly. The Vexari delegate who had mocked them earlier spoke up. "This is unfortunate, but perhaps a blessing in disguise. The Wraith may focus on your world instead of ours for a time." Carter's fists clenched at his sides. Wright put a hand on his arm, warning him to stay calm. "We need to return to Earth immediately," Wright said. "Our people need us." The council agreed to let them go, offering little help. The Silver Leader gave them data files about the Wraith but said their ships were needed to protect Concord worlds. As the Pioneer began its journey home, Wright studied the files. The Wraith ships were far more advanced than anything humans had built. Earth would fall quickly without help. Meanwhile, on Earth, Navy engineer Lisa Brown worked frantically at Space Defense Command. Reports came in of colonies being destroyed, one after another. "The lunar base is gone," said a voice over the radio. "They came out of nowhere." Brown stared at her screen, trying to make sense of the data. Something caught her attention: a slight distortion in the background radiation readings just before each attack. "Run the deep space radar again," she told her team. "But filter out all quantum band signals." Her assistant, Alan Diaz, looked confused. "Why? All advanced scanners use quantum band." "Exactly," Brown said. "What if that's why we can't see them?" They ran the scan using Earth's older radar technology, designed before quantum sensors were developed. Suddenly, dots appeared on the screen. Ships, dozens of them, approaching Earth. "I can see them," Brown whispered. "Our old radar can see them." She immediately sent the information to all Earth defense forces. For the first time, they could track the Wraith ships before they attacked. When the Pioneer returned to Earth orbit 2 weeks later, they found a planet still fighting. Earth's older weapon systems had been brought back online, and while they couldn't match the Wraith in power, they could at least see the enemy coming. Carter and Wright rushed to Space Defense Command, where Brown explained her discovery. "Their cloaking technology hides them from advanced quantum sensors, but our old-fashioned radar can pick them up," she said excitedly. "It's like having a disease that makes you invisible to digital cameras, but still visible to film. That's why they're targeting Earth," Wright realized. "We're a threat because we're behind." A message arrived from the Concorde. The Wraith had begun a massive assault on their core worlds. Their advanced fleets were being decimated by an enemy they couldn't even see. Admiral Peter Simmons, head of Earth's Space Force, entered the room. "We just received a request from the Concorde. They want our help." Carter laughed bitterly. "They mocked our ship as primitive, and now they need us." "Not just us," Simmons said. "They specifically asked for the Pioneer. Apparently, our primitive vessel is now the most valuable ship in the galaxy." Wright looked at Brown. "How quickly can we enhance the Pioneer's radar systems?" "Give me 3 days," Brown said. As they prepared the ship, a message came from the Silver Leader of the Concorde. His voice no longer held any trace of superiority. "Humans, we were wrong about you. What we saw as primitive may be our only hope. Please, bring your ship. The future of all our worlds depends on it." The Pioneer, once an object of mockery, was about to become the most important vessel in the war against the Wraith. The Pioneer arrived at Concorde Fleet Headquarters 3 days later. It was a massive space station surrounded by hundreds of alien ships. Many were damaged, with scorch marks and torn metal visible on their once perfect hulls. Admiral Simmons led the Earth team down the ramp. Captain Carter, Susan Wright, and Lisa Brown followed, carrying equipment and data tablets. They were met by a group of aliens, including the tall Silver Leader from the Council. "Welcome, humans," the Silver Leader said. There was no mockery in his voice now. "I am High Commander Zurex. We thank you for coming. A blue-skinned alien with 6 arms stepped forward. "I am Chief Engineer Kelv of the Concord Fleet. Show me this technology that can detect the Wraith." Brown opened a case containing an old radar unit. "This is it." Kelv stared at it. "This is primitive radio wave technology. It should not be able to detect anything through quantum distortion." "Yet it does," Brown said simply. Kelv reluctantly led them to the station's engineering bay. It was enormous, filled with technology that made Earth's best look like children's toys. But none of it could see the Wraith ships. "Our sensors operate on quantum principles," Kelv explained as they worked. "They see by detecting the quantum state of all matter. And the Wraith have found a way to hide their quantum signature," Wright said. "Understanding now. But they can't hide their physical presence from radio waves." Kelv seemed annoyed by her insight. "Your explanation is simplistic, but essentially correct." They worked for days to adapt the human radar technology to Concord ships. At first, the alien engineers looked down on Brown and Wright, giving them menial tasks. But as time passed, the humans proved their worth. "Why are you adding a backup power system?" Kelv asked Brown one day. "The primary system is 99.8% reliable. Because in battle, that 0.2% chance of failure could mean death," Brown explained. "Humans always add redundancy." "Inefficient," Kelv said, but he watched with interest. Meanwhile, Carter and Simmons worked with Concord military leaders to plan defenses. The aliens had sophisticated battle plans created by artificial intelligence. They were perfect, but also predictable. "The Wraith have studied your patterns," Simmons pointed out. "That's why they always know where to hit you." "What do you suggest?" asked a reptilian commander. "Randomness," Simmons said. "Human unpredictability." On the 6th day, alarms blared throughout the station. The Wraith had found them. "They're coming from 3 directions," reported a Concord officer. "We can't see them yet, but the human sensors detect them." "Get those sensors working on our ships now," ordered Xerex. Brown, Wright, and the alien engineers rushed to install the modified radar systems on key vessels. They had only completed 2 ships when the first Wraith vessels appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. "The Pioneer is the only ship with full sensor capability," Carter reported. "The other retrofits aren't ready." Xerex made a quick decision. "Then the Pioneer must lead our defense." Carter looked shocked. "Our weapons are nothing compared to yours." "But you can see the enemy," Xerex said. "We cannot." The Pioneer, never designed for battle, moved to the front of the Concord fleet. Its crew worked frantically to track the Wraith ships and relay their positions to the alien vessels. "Wraith ship at coordinates 227 to 84,105, called out Kevin West from his communication station. The information was sent to Concord ships, which fired powerful weapons at the location. A Wraith ship became visible as it exploded. Another one at 198 to 63,270. West continued. The battle raged for hours. The Pioneer took several hits, but surprisingly, it held together. Its thick hull and simple systems could take damage that would cripple the more advanced but delicate Concord ships. "Their port engine is failing," an alien commander reported, watching the Pioneer struggle. "No, it's not," Brown said over the communication link. "We have 3 backup systems. We're still in this fight." As the battle continued, the aliens began to look at the ugly, battered human ship with new eyes. What they had seen as primitive now seemed like something else entirely. It looked like strength. The battle continued for another 3 hours. The Pioneer took multiple hits but kept fighting. Wright and her engineering team raced from one part of the ship to another, fixing damaged systems with whatever they had on hand. "Main power is down to 60%, Wright reported, her face streaked with grease. "Switch to the backup generators," Carter ordered. A Concord officer watching from a nearby ship sent a message. "Your ship should not still be functional after sustaining such damage." "That's because we build things to last," Carter replied with a hint of pride. Meanwhile, Chief Communications Officer Daniel Morgan noticed something strange. Each time the Pioneer sent radio messages to coordinate with the Concorde fleet, nearby Wraith ships seemed to falter. "Captain," Morgan called out, "I think our radio signals are interfering with the Wraith communications somehow." Carter looked over at Morgan's station. "Explain." "Their ships move in perfect sync, like they're connected," Morgan said. "But when we transmit on certain frequencies, they get sloppy." Carter thought quickly. "Can you isolate those frequencies and boost our transmission power?" "I can try," Morgan said, already working on his console. The Pioneer began broadcasting powerful radio signals across the frequencies Morgan had identified. Almost immediately, the coordinated Wraith attack patterns broke down. Their ships began to move erratically, sometimes even crashing into each other. "It's working," Morgan shouted. "Their quantum communication can't handle our old-school radio interference." On the Concorde command ship, Zarex watched in amazement. "These humans keep surprising us," he said to his officers. "First their radar sees what we cannot, and now their primitive radio waves disrupt Wraith communications." The tide of battle slowly turned, with the Pioneer's sensors tracking the Wraith ships and its radio signals jamming their communications. The Concorde fleet could finally fight back effectively. A large space station filled with civilians was the Wraith's next target. 3 of their largest ships moved toward it, still partially cloaked but visible to the Pioneer sensors. "They're going to destroy the civilian station," Carter said. "We need to stop them, but we're too far away." Simmons studied the tactical display. "What if we predict where they'll be and have the Concorde ships fire ahead of them?" Carter nodded. "Morgan, give me a direct line to the Concorde fleet commander." Within minutes, the Pioneer was coordinating a complex attack. The human officers used their experience with naval warfare to predict enemy movements and set traps. The Concorde ships, following human directions, fired their powerful weapons at empty space, only for Wraith ships to appear right where the humans had predicted. "How did you know they would go there?" a Concorde commander asked after 3 Wraith ships were destroyed. "We've been fighting each other for thousands of years," Simmons explained. "We understand how to think like an enemy." By the time the battle ended, the civilian station was safe, and over a dozen Wraith ships had been destroyed. The Pioneer was badly damaged, but still operational. Its hull was scorched and dented, with parts exposed to space and sealed off with emergency barriers. As repair crews worked on both human and alien ships, a small group of Concorde military leaders gathered to discuss what had happened. "Their ship should have been destroyed 10 times over," said one officer. "But those redundant systems kept it going." "And their battle tactics," said another. "They think differently than our strategic computers." Zarex entered the room. "The human ships saved many lives today. Perhaps we were too quick to judge their technology as primitive." "What are you suggesting?" asked a Vexeri commander who had once laughed at the Pioneer. "I am suggesting," Zarex said slowly, "that we have much to learn from these humans. Their ship may look crude, but it survived when many of our vessels did not." The Vexeri commander nodded reluctantly. "I will admit, there is something about their approach that is effective." "More than effective," Zarex corrected. "Today, their primitive ship was the best warship in our fleet." In the days following the battle, the attitude of the Concorde toward the humans changed completely. Engineers who had once looked down on Wright and Brown now asked for their input. Military officers who had dismissed human tactics now listened carefully to Simmons and Carter. Zarex called a meeting with the human leaders in the main planning room of the station. Screens showed the spread of Wraith attacks across Concorde space. "We are losing this war," Zarex admitted. "The Wraith attack faster than we can respond. Even with your sensor technology, our ships are too few." "Then we need to build more ships," Carter suggested. "It takes our factories nearly a year to build one capital ship," said Kelv, who had become more respectful toward the humans. Wright looked at Brown, and they shared a quick smile. "On Earth, during our world wars, we converted car factories to build tanks and planes," Wright said. "We went from building dozens to thousands in months." Impossible, Kelv said. Our ships are too complex. Then maybe they shouldn't be, Brown said. She stood and walked to a display screen, bringing up images of the Pioneer. Your ships are marvels of technology, but they're delicate. Ours is simple, but strong. What are you suggesting? Zyrex asked. A hybrid approach, Brown explained. Take our basic designs, sturdy, redundant, repairable, and enhance them with your technology. Not perfect ships, but good enough ships that we can build quickly. The aliens discussed among themselves in their own languages. Finally, Zyrex nodded. Show us how. Over the next 2 weeks, Brown and Wright led a team of engineers in creating plans for a new type of warship. It had a thick hull like Earth vessels, multiple backup systems, and could be repaired easily. But it also incorporated Concorde weapons and drive systems. Meanwhile, Carter and Simmons worked with Concorde military leaders to develop new battle tactics. The aliens had fought using the same strategies for centuries, making them predictable to the Wraith. The humans introduced chaos and unpredictability. In human warfare, Simmons explained, we often use deception and surprise. We make the enemy think we're doing one thing while actually doing another. That seems dishonest, said a reptilian commander. In war, dishonesty keeps your people alive, Carter replied. Morgan discovered another advantage. By studying Wraith communication patterns, he found ways to not just jam their signals but feed them false information. We can make them see ships that aren't there, he told the others excitedly. It's like creating ghost fleets. As their work progressed, the Pioneer was repaired and enhanced with Concorde technology. Its hull was reinforced with stronger materials, its weapons upgraded, but its core systems remained human-built. Brown walked through the ship with Kelv, showing him the changes. We kept the old radar system, but enhanced it with elements of your quantum sensors. It gives us the best of both worlds. I would not have believed such a combination could work, Kelv admitted. Your approach defies our engineering principles, yet the results are undeniable. Humans are good at making do with what we have, Brown said. We call it jury-rigging or McGivering a solution. These terms are not in my translator, Kelv said, confused. Brown laughed. It means fixing problems with whatever is available, not what's perfect. A young Concorde engineer approached them. The new weapon systems are online, he reported. We've never combined nuclear missiles with energy shields before. The simulations show they can now penetrate Wraith defenses. Excellent, Brown said. She turned to Kelv. Ready to test them. Before Kelv could answer, alarms sounded throughout the station. A voice came over the communication system. Wraith fleet detected approaching from multiple vectors. All ships prepare for battle. The Pioneer, once mocked as primitive, now stood ready as the prototype for a new kind of warship. No longer just human, no longer just alien, but something new. A hybrid that took the strengths of both. And it was about to be tested in fire once again. The battle lasted for hours. The Pioneer led a small fleet of Concorde ships against the Wraith attack force. Their hybrid technology worked better than anyone had expected. They could see the enemy, hit them with weapons that penetrated their shields, and disrupt their communications. When it was over, the Wraith had been driven back with heavy losses. The station was saved, though several Concorde ships were badly damaged. The Pioneer, despite taking multiple hits, performed remarkably well. In the aftermath, Zyrex called an emergency meeting of the Concorde Council. This time, Carter, Wright, Brown, and Simmons were invited as honored guests, not as outsiders begging for recognition. The evidence is clear, Zyrex told the council. The human approach, combined with our technology, is effective against the Wraith. I propose an unprecedented project, a new class of warship based primarily on human designs. There were objections from some council members, particularly the Vexari. You want to base our fleet on the designs of a species that has barely left their own solar system? The Vexari delegate asked. I do, Zyrex said firmly. Because their ships survive when ours do not. After much debate, the Council approved the project. The first ship of this new class would be called the Defiance, a name suggested by Admiral Simmons to represent standing against overwhelming odds. Construction began immediately. The Concorde's massive shipyards, normally used to build their sleek and elegant vessels, were reconfigured to create something very different. The Defiance took shape over the next month, a hulking, sturdy vessel with thick armor and multiple redundant systems. Brown supervised the project, working closely with Kelv and other alien engineers. "It looks ugly by your standards, I know," she told Kelv as they observed the construction. "Appearance is irrelevant," Kelv replied. "Function matters more. This is a lesson your species has taught us." The Defiance incorporated technologies that seemed contradictory. Vacuum tubes alongside quantum processors, nuclear fission alongside antimatter reactors. Traditional Concorde engineering principles said these things shouldn't work together, but human ingenuity found ways to make the impossible possible. As the ship neared completion, a security officer named Olivia Martinez noticed something strange. One of the Concorde workers spent too much time in restricted areas and asked too many questions about the ship's weaknesses. "Something doesn't feel right about him," Martinez told Carter. "I can't explain it, but my gut says he's trouble." "Your instinct is enough for me," Carter said. He had learned to trust human intuition. "Keep watching him." That night, Martinez caught the suspicious worker planting devices on the Defiance's main power conduits. When confronted, the worker's appearance flickered, revealing a Wraith infiltrator. "How did you know?" Xerex asked after the spy was captured. "Our security scans should have detected a Wraith." "Human instinct," Martinez explained. "Something felt wrong, so I watched more carefully. Your species relies too much on technology and not enough on feeling." The next day, the Concorde's intelligence division discovered the infiltrator had sent information about the Defiance to the Wraith fleet. The enemy now knew about humanity's involvement and the new hybrid ships. "They'll attack soon," Simmons predicted. "They can't let us build more of these ships." As if confirming his words, long-range sensors detected a massive Wraith fleet gathering. It was larger than any seen before, hundreds of ships preparing to attack the shipyard. "The Defiance isn't ready," Brown reported. "We need another week to finish the weapon systems." "We don't have a week," Carter said grimly. Xerex studied the reports and made a decision. "The Defiance must be finished immediately, ready or not. It is our best hope." The shipyard became a frenzy of activity as workers rushed to complete the vessel. Human and alien engineers worked side by side, improvising solutions when there was no time for proper installation. As the massive Wraith fleet approached, the Defiance prepared for its first battle. It would be leading a desperate defense, commanded by Admiral Simmons with a mixed crew of humans and aliens. The ship that would decide the fate of the galaxy was neither fully human nor fully alien. It was something new, something the Wraith had never faced before. The Defiance moved into position at the front of the Concorde fleet. Behind it were the Pioneer and 30 other vessels, many of them partially upgraded with human technology. It wasn't enough to match the Wraith armada that approached, but it was all they had. Admiral Simmons stood on the bridge of the Defiance. Around him worked a mixed crew of humans and aliens. Brown and Wright were in engineering, while Carter commanded the Pioneer nearby. Martinez led the security teams, ready to repel boarders if it came to that. "All ships report ready," said a Concorde officer. Simmons nodded. "Begin Operation Trojan." The fleet executed the plan they had developed. Instead of forming a defensive line, as Concorde fleets traditionally did, they scattered in an apparently disorganized pattern. To the approaching Wraith, it looked like confusion and panic. "They're taking the bait," Morgan reported from his communication station. "Wraith fleet is accelerating, breaking into attack groups." The Wraith fleet split apart, each group pursuing what they thought were easy targets. That's when the trap was sprung. The scattered Concorde ships suddenly turned and concentrated their fire on isolated Wraith vessels. The battle raged across a vast area of space. The Defiance moved from one hotspot to another, its powerful weapons destroying Wraith ships that had never expected such firepower from what their spies had described as a half-finished vessel. Then disaster struck. A new type of Wraith weapon hit the Defiance, sending pulses of energy through its systems. The ship's advanced computers shut down, leaving it drifting and vulnerable. All digital systems are offline, Brown reported from engineering. We can't get them back online remotely. Wright looked at the backup systems they had installed. We don't need the computers. We can run the ship manually, like we did on early Earth vessels. While Concorde crew members watched in confusion, Wright and her team switched to mechanical controls that had been installed as a last resort. Wheels, levers, and analog dials replaced touch screens and voice commands. Steering restored, Wright called through the internal communication system, which was now just a simple voice pipe. Weapons can be fired manually. It's not pretty, but it works. The Wraith had expected the Defiance to be crippled. Instead, it came back to life, moving in ways no Concorde ship could manage without computers. The crude backup systems gave it an advantage the enemy hadn't predicted. Meanwhile, Martinez and her security team faced another challenge. Wraith soldiers had managed to teleport aboard during the confusion. They expected to fight aliens who relied on technology for combat. Instead, they met humans trained in hand-to-hand fighting. They can't predict us, Martinez told her team as they fought. Their combat algorithms don't work against human unpredictability. The security team drove the boarders back, protecting the ship's vital areas until they could be ejected into space. As the battle reached its peak, Morgan discovered a pattern in the Wraith fleet movements. They're all receiving orders from that large ship in the center, he told Simmons. Cut off the head, and the body will die. Simmons ordered all available ships to focus on the Wraith command vessel. The Pioneer and Defiance led the attack, using their hybrid technology to penetrate the enemy's defenses. The Wraith command ship exploded in a blinding flash. As Morgan had predicted, the remaining enemy vessels fell into disarray. Without central coordination, their perfect tactics crumbled in the face of the chaotic human-inspired attack. 3 hours later, it was over. The remnants of the Wraith fleet retreated, jumping away to unknown parts of the galaxy. The Concorde human fleet had won, though many ships were damaged and casualties were high. In the following days, as repairs were made and the dead mourned, the Concorde Council convened again. This time, they had only one item on their agenda. Humanity has proven its worth beyond any doubt, Zarex announced. I propose that Earth be granted full membership in the Galactic Concorde, with all rights and privileges. The vote was unanimous. The humans who had once been mocked as primitive were now honored as saviors. The Pioneer, which had started it all, was later placed in a museum. A plaque beside it read, "They mocked humanity's ship until it became the ultimate war machine."